From my perspective, getting people into a room together in today's day and age is a big deal. I do pretty much everything online. It takes a lot to get me out of my house, and I imagine that it takes a lot to get you out of your house too. So I'm really curious, why? What got you here tonight? What brought you here? What had you so, like, I gotta get in my car, come to the Impact Hub, and be here?
The header of the teaching us how to be more productive using our team resources.
Great. Thank you. For those of you that don't know what team resources are, we're going to be talking about that. Time, energy, attention, and money. And from my perspective, that's really what so many of us are investing our lives trying to figure out. How do we balance these team resources in a way that creates a life worth living? And what's also important to me is a legacy worth leaving, both of those things. And so great, we're going to be definitely talking about that. Anybody else? Anything different?
Because I love you.
Because you love me. Thank you. So Carissa is a longtime studier of my work, I guess I would say, from the way back. Carissa, when was the first time that you came across my work?
It was 2009, and it was the Wear Clean Underwear book.
Oh, that's where you started with. That's great. Okay. So I did write a book on legal planning for families called Wear Clean Underwear, because your mom always told you in case you're in an accident to wear clean underwear, but once you're a parent, wearing clean underwear alone is no longer enough. There's important legal planning steps that you need to take in case something happens to you. So wear clean underwear. And you don't even have kids and you came across that book. Interesting. And then the money map. Yeah. Many iterations of the money map. So are you guys still working on getting the slides up?
We are working on it.
You're still working on it. Okay. Well, you know what we could do? I mean, we could just literally put the computer up there. They don't really actually need to see the slides. I need to see the slides.
Okay.
Most importantly.
Until we figure it out.
Great. So that's what we're going to do.
Can you use your computer until we figure it out?
I can use my computer. Anybody else come for any other reasons?
I came because you said this was one of a talk that was very well received the last time you did it.
Yes.
I've been following you too since the money map, and we're connected through the hemp oil business.
Yeah.
As part of the new economy. So
Yes.
want to dive a little deeper into your content.
Great.
Hello.
Great. Good. I didn't know that you were familiar with the money map work, so that's great. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Okay, so team resources, money map, wear clean underwear. Anything else? Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I guess I went to your.
You heard my
previous-
talk.
I heard your talk at Boulder Startup Week, and
Yeah.
it was too short. Like there just wasn't enough time, and so I thought that I'd show up tonight to just like learn more about what you had to say.
Great.
It was very interesting.
Great. Well, it might be a repeat, but my guess is that you're going to get something new this time than you did last time, because you've already got the concepts from last time, and now there's space to let in more. So let's go ahead and get started. And I want to start by, and are you guys good? Okay. I want to start by asking you the question around how do you right now make decisions around the use of your time, energy, attention, and money resources? And it's not a rhetorical question, like I actually do want to know. How do you decide? Yeah.
I just fly by the seat of my pants.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's kind of just like whatever I'm into in the moment.
Okay, whatever you're into. I like that. It sounds to me like it's like what catches your attention. Okay?
Short-term and long-term impact.
Short-term and long-term impact. I love that. So it's like what is going to have the most impact on other people, on your own life, all of it.
All of it, like the immediate, not only looking at the priorities of the day, but, okay, so as I'm looking at those, is it going to be a moving forward in a project or somewhat for someone else?
Yeah.
And then what is that? Always the long term.
Awesome. And yeah, you're doing the hand motions of like moving forward. What's going to move things forward? Great. So it would be helpful if you could see this slide. So I'll show you what it says. There's a guy, and he's holding a bag of money. and he's smoking a cigar, and the image says money in the pocket comes first. And I'm curious, none of you said it, but how many of you, maybe secretly even, are making your choices about what you do with your time, your energy, your attention, and your money? What do you do with your team resources on a day-by-day basis based on money coming first? Anybody willing to acknowledge that sneaks in? Great, yeah? Great, yeah. So like maybe sometimes like what catches your attention might be something, oh, that'll either help me make money, or maybe something catches your attention and it's like, oh no, can't do that, too much money. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty normal. And I think that those of us who are not acknowledging that to ourselves might look a little deeper and just see, just check it out. Is that there? How much is that there for you? And, you know, I'm speaking here from my own experience that for me, it was there much of my life. And it's still something that I'm constantly looking for. I'm constantly paying attention to, because I know that when I am making my choices based on money, about how to use my team resources, my time, my energy, my attention, and that I don't ultimately end up having the life that I want. What ends up happening, and you guys can write these down since you can't see them, is that you might actually end up, ironically, undercharging for your services. How many of you charge for your services? Do something that requires you to charge for your services. So, ironically, when we're putting money first, we end up undercharging for our services. You might end up working way too much than is actually sustainable for your life. Anybody have that issue? Like way overworking? Yeah, that's a big one. And no time for self-care or family. Like you're so sure, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to go to the park with my kids. I don't have time to take that vacation. Usually it results as well in not getting the help that you need in your life or your business. How many of you here are like true solos? You are just absolutely doing it alone. Great. Almost all of you, true solos. What we're talking about today, I think the ultimate headline for this talk was the new economy business model you really want. I can promise you that business model is not one where you're working alone. The new economy business model that you really want has you working with other people together, not solo, and it's really compromised when we're putting money first because we're like, oh, I can't afford that help. I can't afford that. At least that's the thought that ran in my head for so long. Or let me see how I could get the cheapest help possible, right? Let me see how I can pay as little as possible. And what kind of a new economy is that, right? It's not creating what we really want. It also oftentimes results in you not having enough clients if you are in the client creating business. And at the same time, overselling of your services. Overselling of your services, feeling like you have to push. There's like too much supply. Too much supply, for the demand that's out there. And the resulting appearance of that is less value, meaning you appear less valuable. Not even so much to the outside world, perhaps, but to yourself. You just appear less valuable to yourself. And when you appear less valuable to yourself because you think that there's too much supply for the demand, that then gets reflected back to you. Because I believe that everything we see outside of ourselves, especially in business, but also in relationships and parenting and in every other area, is a reflection of our own internal consciousness, right? So when you are seeing, oh, there's too much me and not enough demand, and money's coming first, and there's not enough, then you're not charging enough for your services, and it creates really this vicious cycle that many of us are stuck in. So that is the impact of putting money first. And if you're seeing any of those signs in your own life, even though you might say, I don't put money first, I don't even care about money. Money is not my driving motivation. I just encourage you to check it out. See if maybe there might be something in there that you're not seeing that perhaps tonight we can shift completely. And that's the great news. Once you see it, you can actually shift it. So how does this happen? Well, it starts with you not knowing. So you're going to write this down again because you're not going to be able to see it. How does it happen? How does this happen? How has this happened? You not knowing how much you actually need to have the life that you want. So I don't know how much I actually need to have the life that I want. And not knowing how many hours or what you really have to give in order to create the money that you need. Yoo-hoo! Great. We got it up? Okay, good.
We're just gonna have to be back here.
Okay. All right. I'm so losing control. No! Okay, it's okay because I'm going to change it here and then you change it there.
Okay.
Great. So that's how it happens. You don't know how much you need to have the life that you want. And you actually don't know what you have to give to create what you want in your life. And again, the results of that, you price your services based on what everyone else in the marketplace is doing, which is usually too low. Hourly, how many of you are hourly you're charging hourly for your time? Yeah, and like everybody hates to pay hourly. People want to know, what's it going to cost? What am I actually going to get? It's not sustainable to choose to charge for your services hourly. It usually results in a lose-lose scenario for you and for your clients. Then you try to get as many clients as you possibly can, often seeing a scarcity. And the flip side is you get too many clients. What happens when you get too many clients? You can't deliver on what you promise. And so you're like constantly scrambling to keep up. You're constantly scrambling. How many of you feel like that in your day? Yeah. And you're not ultimately delivering well results, and so you're creating this feedback loop that you suck. Then you have to charge less for your services. Then you have to try to get more clients. And it's this just vicious circle that we want to break free of once and for all. Through it all, you're way too busy. You're not making that forward progress. It's like you're busy every day. Every day you're busy, but not moving anything forward. And you're using your time, your energy, and attention in service to money. So, for those of us that didn't raise our hands at the beginning and say that we put money first, again, we're just checking it out to see what's true. And again, I'm pushing on this because I know I have lied to myself here again and again and again, and I don't want to tell you that I don't anymore because I still do sometimes. It's a constant process of needing to catch myself because it's deeply conditioned and ingrained. And it is up to us, and I believe it is why you are here, to break free of this conditioning so that we can create something different, truly a new economy, business model for ourselves, for all the people that we work with, and ultimately for the future generations that will come after us. But it's up to us. We have to do it. So let's change the slide. So why does this happen? What's happening here in this picture? Anybody see what's happening here? Or maybe know the name of what's happening here? Body dysmorphia. So we've got the big guy. He's like all buff, and he's looking in the mirror, and he sees, a really skinny guy. And the same exact thing happens to us with money. Exactly the same. It's a disease that I have identified called money dysmorphia. And it is our distorted view of money that causes us to make poor decisions around how we use our time, energy, and attention. These are our non-renewable resources. Time, energy, and attention, non-renewable. Money is actually infinitely renewable. It's made up, it's a construct, it's an agreement that we have all come to together. And when you know how to tap into it and receive it, infinitely renewable. Now you might be sitting there saying, well, but I don't know how. Or it hasn't been infinitely renewable for me. And we're gonna change that. We're gonna change that because I'm gonna actually give you the equation. This part, Heather, might be new. The equation for enough. So that you can start catching yourself and putting time, energy, and attention first before money for real, not just because you're saying it with the words, but because you're actually doing it. You're actually making your choices in that way. And here's the formula. We're going to come back to it later. We're going to break it down. But the formula to cure your money dysmorphia is having clarity about what you need, what you have to give, and then knowing how to ask for what you need in exchange for what you have to give cleanly. When you know how to do that, money is never in short supply. Now, these things are not easy. We have not been taught how to acknowledge what we need or how to know what we have to give, and certainly not how to ask for what we need in exchange for what we have to give. Heck, some of us have been taught not even to acknowledge what we need, right? Anybody else? I don't need anything. I'm independent. But the fact is that we do. We have needs. So I first discovered this when I met the $100 million man. And I met the $100 million man at a time when I was on the pursuit of what I had been taught was financial freedom. Anybody been taught about financial freedom? What is financial freedom? How do you know? How would you know when you got to financial freedom? Anybody know the financial advisor formula? Do you know the financial advisor formula?
No, it's not leaping to mind. I've heard many.
Yeah? Anybody?
When you're retired,
When you're retired. How do you know when you can retire?
when your interest income can meet your expenses.
Yeah, that's what the financial advisors tell us. When your interest income, so that means you've got enough money hoarded, they call it savings, in the bank. Okay, I have a little bias there, you could hear. You've got enough money in the bank, in savings, to generate enough interest income to support your lifestyle needs. Okay, so I took that in and I said, all right, what's my number? Anybody know their number? Like the amount of money you'd need to have? Well, I calculated my number. This is back in like 2007, 2008, 2009. My number was $40 million. That was my financial freedom number. When I had $40 million, then I would have financial freedom. Now, why would it be that number? How much would I be generating each year based on $40 million? Well, I figured 5% would be like a safe rate of return. That would generate $2 million a year. Now, why in the world would I need $2 million a year? Well, in my mind, I had businesses, and those businesses cost me about $2 million a year to run. They were making lots of money. And if I had $40 million, the businesses could, this was very flawed thinking, by the way, I'm just going to call that out now. If I had $40 million, then $2 million a year coming in, then the businesses could continue to run even if I didn't do anything else. I could retire. My businesses could still run. I wouldn't have to take on any more clients or do any more selling or do any more serving or do anything else unless I wanted to. Freedom. I wouldn't have to do anything unless I wanted to, and it would take $40 million. Many flaws in that analysis. I won't go into all of them right now, other than that's when I met the $100 million man. I was on the quest for that. And maybe I was even on track to have it. I don't know. But luckily, I met the $100 million man. And when I met him, I thought, oh, he must be free. He must be free because he's got $100 million, and that is way more than my $40 million, and he must be able to do whatever he wants, when he wants to do it, and just be free. Well, what do you think that I found out when I met the $100 million man?
Doesn't feel free.
He was the least free human being I had ever met, ever in my life. He was so not free. All he could talk about was his money. Where it was, how he would get access to it, what kinds of currency it was in, how it was protected, and he had no relationships other than a wife that was divorcing him who clearly only married him for the money. Like, stayed married just long enough to get the big settlement. Now he's having to sell the private plane to pay off the divorce settlement. It was heartbreaking. It was really heartbreaking, actually. Oh, and he worked all the time. All the time. And he seemed to think that he had to. And I feel really sad for him, and I bet you all do as well. And yet, in many ways, it's the way probably at least some part of us is right now, trapped. By that same way of being, his is just magnified many times over by what he created. And yet, it's relative. And I feel really grateful that I met him because it woke me up to say, Alexis, what are you doing? Wake up. This $40 million isn't the solution. There's another way. But I didn't know what that way was. And I want to take you back a little bit before that to introduce you to me. 2006, 2007 timeframe, solopreneur. I was probably, I guess back then, 2006 timeframe, I was just 3 years out of law school. So maybe 2003. I started my own law practice. And I may have looked like, a business badass, but really I didn't know much about anything when it came to business at all. But I did know where to get good photos. And you go to the next slide. I had 2 kids at home. These are my kids, Kaya and Noah. Today they're much bigger, 14 and 17. And I was the breadwinner in my family. My husband was a stay-at-home dad. And this was back in the days when there weren't really too many stay-at-home dads. And I was certain, 100% certain, we did not have enough money for hardly anything. So I tried to build my law practice, mostly on my own, like you all, solo. I'm not going to hire anybody. I can't afford it. And we got very little, and actually make that no help at home. I said, we're the parents. We're going to raise the kids, just the 2 of us. We're not going to pay for any help. It's probably one of the biggest things that contributed to the end of our marriage, I would say. And I got very little help in my office as well because, I couldn't afford it, I was sure. You go to the next slide. This was the office that I built. Within 3 years, I had built that solopreneur law practice into $1 million a year plus law firm, serving families and small business owners with a staff of 4 plus 3 of counsel attorneys. So obviously I overcame some of those ideas around not having enough money to hire anybody. But even as I was doing that, I still had this really built-in deep scarcity mentality. So I didn't pay the people who worked for me enough. When I did pay them, I believed that that was the substitute for gratitude. They didn't really need to get my appreciation because I was writing the check. I feel embarrassed to talk about this now, but it's common. It's actually a common mindset. What do you mean you want more appreciation? You're getting paid, aren't you? Maybe you see some of that inside of you. Maybe you've had that directed at you. Change the slide. And I went on to write the best-selling book on legal planning for parents. We talked about that already, Wear Clean Underwear. And I began training other lawyers on how to provide legal services to families and small business owners the way that I had created in my own law practice. And I sold my law practice in 2008. But because of my money dysmorphia, I sold my law practice to the wrong person. You can change the slide. And I turned what should have easily been a $500,000 gain into a $250,000 loss. The direct result of the choices that I made from this place of money dysmorphia. Now, along the way, I got sued by an employee. Now, I'm going to take you back to that time and where I was. I thought I was the best employer ever. I was sure of it. And it was shocking to me to find out that, in fact, at least this employee, if not all of them, hated me. Because I was the employer, and I was so nice. And I let them work whenever they wanted to. And I didn't make people keep track of their hours. But you know, inside of me, there was this money thing where I believed that because I was paying and because I was, letting them control their own time, that, I was a great employer. But ultimately inside, I wasn't a nice person. Not really. So I ended up getting sued. I had to settle the case. I didn't have the right insurance in place. It ended up being a 5-figure settlement. And then, again, because of my money dysmorphia, even though I was making $1 million a year in revenue, I wanted to pay as little as I possibly could to manage that money. So I didn't want to really pay for good bookkeeping and tax advice. And I had an unexpected $113,000 tax bill. Totally not prepared, hadn't put the money aside. This was 2007. April comes around, and oh, you owe $113,000. I don't have $113,000. Fortunately, back then, you could just sign your name on the dotted line, and if you had good credit score, the bank would give you $113,000 to pay your taxes. When I'm telling you I knew nothing about business, I really didn't know anything about business. I did go on, though, to build another $1 million plus business in just 18 months, this one called the Family Wealth Planning Institute. And I was training lawyers on how to serve families and small business owners in a new way. You might say, how could she have been making all those really bad decisions and yet be training lawyers on how to serve families and small business owners? And I look back and I wonder the same thing, except that the parts that I was training them on were the parts that I was good at. We're all good at some parts and not good at others. And really what I was training them on didn't have to do with how to make sure that the money was taken care of in the right way. Because frankly, this is what most financial advisors are teaching. I was just taking in what I was learning, at least on the side of managing my finances, at least I thought, trying to keep my expenses as low as possible, pay as little as possible, and ultimately had the results that I did. Next slide. I even appeared on television frequently, and while I knew a lot about lawyering and how to market and sell legal services, I was still facing this huge shadow of my money dysmorphia. Next slide. So I got really good at building solopreneur businesses, ones like yours, from solopreneur to about $1.5 million in revenue. That was my set point. I can get to $1.5 million in revenue because still at $1.5 million of revenue, there's a way that even if you're hiring other people, it's still up to you. The other people that you're hiring are independent contractors. They're not really like partners with you, right? So I was still in control. Up to $1.5 million. But each time I got there, I got stuck. I hit up against this ceiling that I couldn't see. And I wondered, why do I keep getting stuck at the same level? I can get just here and no farther. And ultimately, it was money dysmorphia, and the only way for me to break through it was to let go of everything that I had created. So in 2010, I moved here to Colorado from LA, and I bought this farm, 2 acres out in Berthoud, and put everything else I had into it, and moved into this little 2-bedroom farmhouse with my kids, and spent a year doing nothing that I wouldn't do for free, because I had to remember. I had to come back to remembering, who am I if I don't make my choices based on money? Now, the truth is, when I bought that farm, I had no intention of living there. There was no way in hell I was going to live there. In fact, when I bought it for my kid's dad to set up a medical marijuana grow. Didn't work out. the day that we closed and signed on the papers, I said, now mark my words, I am never, ever, ever, ever going to live here. Never. So, of course, I had to. And, you know, I went through a series of iterations with it where I was like, okay, if the medical marijuana grow is not going to work, we're going to build a retreat center, and I'm going to create a community. But I also was not going to live in the community. I was going to have my big house in Longmont while everybody else lived in the community, but not me. Because that was for them. So, you know, these are the kinds of insidious ways of thinking that I believe are baked into our culture, that were being expressed through me, that ultimately are not sustainable. Symptoms of money dysmorphia in many ways. So I spent a year there beginning to unravel the patterns. I ultimately did file bankruptcy in that year. And I discovered that what we had been taught, what I had been taught, the way that I was living, about how I made choices about what work I did, what I took on, my life path, our life paths, how to price and package my services, how to use my resources, how to build businesses, it all came from exactly the wrong place. And you know, if you're familiar with Integral at all, it was very orange, right? All about my own personal success. Ultimately was not sustainable. And ultimately, that money dysmorphia. Total blindness. Walking through that blindness, going to the farm, I then, you know, moved up the spiral of the evolution of consciousness into green meme. We're all equal. We don't need any hierarchy. You guys know about green meme? Yeah? Anybody seen it work? Because I tried to make it work at the farm. I really did. I was like, I'm not going to make any decisions alone. I'm going to make all the decisions with all the people. Everybody is going to participate in all the decisions together. I'm not going to be a leader. I'm not going to lead. I'm not going to take control. So it's kind of the pendulum swing in the other direction. And ultimately, that didn't work either. That didn't work either. I hope that today I'm living a bit more integral consciousness, and what we're talking about is how do we bring this integral consciousness of all the levels into this new economy business model that you want to create? Well, it has to start with you opening your eyes to what's actually motivating you, what's really true about how you're making your decisions, about how you use your time, your energy, your attention, and your money resources. Go to the next slide. So within 18 months of leaving the farm, and I did leave the farm, I lived there for just 1 year, left there in August of 2012. And by the way, I want to just say that the bankruptcy process is a super interesting process. Has anybody here been through that process? It's nothing to be afraid of, I will say that. I did take a huge hit to my reputation, my brand, my image, but you know what, those things needed a hit anyway. And what I learned is that so many of us are afraid to use the resources that we have available to us because debt is bad, debt is wrong, and if you screwed up, which you're going to do, you know, the financial services industry tells us, then this big bad thing called bankruptcy is going to happen to you, and then you are bad, wrong, and evil because you owed a debt and you didn't pay it back. And it was actually really cool to break free of a lot of that conditioning and discover that debt is an amazing resource. It is such a gift. If you can inspire a bank to invest in you so that you can use those resources in a phenomenal way, I mean, I got about $500,000 of resources that I got to invest in my learning. And that can never be taken away. That's part of what I'm giving back to all of you today. I couldn't lose it if I tried. And so for any of you that are out there saying, I can't afford it, well, I would put forth that maybe you're just not tapping into the resources that are available to you because you're afraid. Maybe you don't really actually believe in yourself that you'll do good with them. And I just want to stand here as a living example for you to say that even if you did screw it all up like I did, I made $1 million worth of mistakes. It's amazing that I only ended up with $500,000 of debt. I covered the rest of the mistakes myself. And I'm a living example that you can make $1 million worth of mistakes and then give back many, 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 many times that to the community that can learn from you and from the mistakes that you make. Because the reality is we learn by making mistakes. It's how we learn. Maybe not as much in prior generations, but today, it's the #1 best way for you to learn. I want to give all of you as much money as I possibly can for you to be able to make mistakes with, because money is not ultimately what matters. Money is not ultimately what matters. So 2012, I left the farm in August, and then I came back into Boulder, came back into the world, and I had to figure out, okay, how do I rebuild what I have left behind? But do it sustainably. Do it in a way that includes not just my head, but my heart. Do it in a way that allows me to actually build a new economy business model, where I'm only working with people that I actually feel tremendous appreciation for, so much appreciation that they don't have to be saying to me, I don't feel appreciated by you. And I'm not like thinking to them, the paycheck is the appreciation enough. But like where the paycheck is like a representation of, yes, we're working together, and I want you to have what you need because I love that we're working together, and I'm so grateful to be getting your time that I want to give you as much as I can. How can I build that? Coming back from this rock bottom place where now I have 0 credit score and a bad reputation, and I had some confidence issues at that point, right? Like, I just filed bankruptcy. It was hard in my mind. But ultimately, I did it. I rebuilt everything on this new foundation. And, the way that I think of it is as eyes wide open choice making. Today, what my life looks like is radically different. Radically different. So first of all, you can kind of see it here in me standing in front of you. That original picture you saw of me is quite different than what's here now. This is me, my authentic self. I make my choices based on really what I want to do. Like, it is such a treat for me to be here with you tonight and to be sharing this with you. I don't get anything from it. In the past, I made every decision based on what would I get. It didn't feel good. It felt terrible to be coming from that place all the time. We go to the next slide. And I have all these different ways that I earn money today. And I get to pick and choose among them. That's what I really like the best, is that in each moment I get to choose, how am I allocating my team resources, my time, my energy, my attention, and my money. And so I'm just going to go through with you kind of, what do I do today to earn money? So I'm a solopreneur like you. Some things I do are still purely solopreneur, not because I don't want to hire people, but because I still have control issues. And there are some things that I can't seem to let go of, mostly because I like to find the right person and train them. It feels like it takes too much time. Some of you probably have that. And it's also, it's not consistent enough, right? I'm working one-to-one sometimes with couples and business owners, mostly to move through conflict. And there's not a system associated with it that I could teach somebody else, right? So I'm just doing that myself. People schedule with me directly. And I only take on that work when I really want to, because working with people in conflict can be really challenging. Sometimes I'm working with business owners who are bringing a new business online. And I'll give you a great example. There's a client that I've been working with, and they have this new project coming. And I think she wanted to pay me $2,000 to create agreements, some licensing agreements. And I don't love working with this client. I like it. I know that I can provide a level of value that she probably couldn't find anywhere else because of my unique combination of legal, business, and experience in the industry. But the client is challenging to work with. You know how sometimes it's like the person calls and you're like, that's not the one I want to answer. It's a little bit like that. And so I had to really look at what is this allocation of time, energy, attention, and money that would make it worth it for me to work with this client. And maybe some of you would say there's none. You just say no. But I actually do like it a little bit. And I really like to provide value. And you know, when it's like the kind of value that only I can provide, that feels really satisfying to me. So in the past, when I was putting money first, I might have said yes to the $2,500 or $2,000 or whatever it is that she wanted to pay me because, like, it's money. And any money is good money, and $2,500, that's pretty good. But I didn't do that this time. What I did instead is I said, I'm going to partner with you on this, actually. By the way, I don't know if she said yes to this yet. I'm going to partner with you on this. I happen, you know, for each client that you enroll in your program, you're going to make $15,000. So if you want me to work with you on this, I want the equivalent of one client, $15,000. Now, no, lawyers don't do this. This is not how lawyers bill for their services. I want the equivalent of one client. That seems fair. You're going to be able to enroll clients based on what I do for the rest of your business. And I'm going to be providing you with this tremendous value that really nobody else can provide. And I don't even really like working with you that much. I didn't say that part. So I don't know if she's going to say yes or not. But it felt really great to not just say yes to the $2,500 because it was $2,500. And to know with absolute certainty, what would it take for me to feel thrilled to take on this client? And I want you all to know that for yourself. Now, in order to know that for yourself, you need to know what is your minimum. What is your minimum? What I call money map number. Money map number, you write that down. I'm going to give you access to a free resource that I created for you to be able to calculate that. So I'm not going to take you through that right now, but you need to know that, what your minimum money map number is, especially because most of you are charging hourly for your time. So you got to know what your minimum is, because on a going forward basis, when you're working one-to-one with people, I don't want you charging hourly for your time ever again. Instead, what I want you doing is, like I did, charging based on an outcome. In this case, my outcome for her was, I'm going to create these agreements so that you can license your program and enroll people at $15,000 each. And for me to do that, the equivalent of one client for you. So I want you to be able to know what is the outcome that you're providing to your clients on a one-to-one basis. And then you package your services based on the outcome, and you never charge less than your minimum. I'm going to break this down for you more later. Money map number. Okay? So what else do I do? I have online courses. I guide people like you to come into right relationship with time, money, and how they get paid, and also how to set up their legal, insurance, financial, and tax foundations so as not to make the $1 million worth of mistakes I made. I learned the hard way so you can learn the easy way. So I offer these online courses. What's funny is right now I'm not even selling the online courses. Why? Because it's kind of on hold. That business is on hold because I'm not allocating my time, energy, and attention there right now. Instead, I'm allocating my time, energy, and attention into a licensing program that I created where I train lawyers to serve clients in the way that I do. Families, to create a life worth living and a legacy worth leaving, and business owners to get clear on how do they use their time, energy, attention, and money. How do they put in place these legal, insurance, financial, and tax systems? And that's really where my focus is right now. Now, I will say that in a way, the analysis that I did when I was deciding where to allocate my own time, energy, and attention was on money. You might say, but hey, you told me that money shouldn't come first. It's part of the equation. Team resources, time, energy, attention, money. It's one of the equations. And I knew that if I put my energy and attention into building a true team in this business that serves lawyers, I could actually get past that $1.5 million revenue ceiling that I'd been at, that I was stuck at, because I never actually gave enough energy and attention, focus to building a company. So the way I see it is you've got solopreneurs, most of you. You've got business owners. How many of you would consider yourself a business owner? You've got some people who work with you or for you. And then you've got company owners. And so I'm going from business owner to company owner. And what's the difference? Leadership. The difference is that I have to break free of my control tendencies. I have to break free of my perfectionism. I have to step into being a leader. And I have to build a share the wealth company. A business, I'm getting rich and I'm paying other people. We might be like working together and I'm paying them what they need. But with a company, what's happening now is my company is buying back 52% of my shares and reallocating those shares to the team and to the lawyers we serve so that we're working together. That, to me, is a new economy business model. That, to me, is a new economy business model where we are all having the opportunity to share in the wealth, not just me, because I'm the CEO and the founder and the owner getting rich. And then I get to also choose, eyes wide open, where to invest my other resources. So I've got some cryptocurrency. How many of you are into the cryptocurrency thing? Seeds. And I've also decided to put some of my resources into creating a team around a hemp oil that maybe you've heard about. It's fantastic. And why am I putting time, energy, and attention there? Leveraged income. It's a multi-level marketing model, which I happen to think is amazing. Also has a bad reputation, by the way. I get to work with people that I don't get to work with in my lawyer business. In my lawyer business, I work with lawyers. I like to work with, people like you. And I don't get to do that in my lawyer business, and I get to do that in the hemp oil business, and it's hemp. I'm like, who doesn't love hemp? Coming soon, podcast, books, radio, all of those sorts of things. This is eyes wide open choice making, right? It's not one thing, it's lots of things. Maybe your choices will be singular of focus. That's not how my life works. I kind of wish it did, but it doesn't. I'm also raising teenagers, so that's what they look like today, 14 and 17. And my son is about to go to Thailand with his dad next Monday. My daughter will be going to high school in Israel, an 8-week program that I went to 25 years ago, if you can believe it, in September. And raising teenagers is a lot. Some of you know that. Yeah. And I have plenty of time, energy, attention, and money. And sometimes I still forget that I do. Sometimes I still get anxious. And when I do, and what I realized recently is that when I start to freak out about money, which I still do because money dysmorphia is a thing, I think that people who have body dysmorphia, is something that they have, and they have to always bring back consciousness to. Because of the systems, the practical systems, not law of attraction, not like woo-woo magical thinking, but because of the practical systems that I have to look at my money, my financial situation, my businesses with my eyes wide open, when the fear starts to come up, I can look and see, do I actually really have anything to worry about, or am I just freaking out? Because what I realized from a consciousness perspective is that sometimes when I'm about to break through to another level, instead of recognizing that I'm scared of the next level, that I feel insecure, or that I don't believe I can do it, or that I'm hitting up against a leadership edge and those control issues I mentioned to you, sometimes instead of recognizing that, I'll make it about money. I don't have enough money, I don't have enough money. And it's actually not that I don't have enough money. It's that I'm at my edge of my comfort zone around leadership, around, oh my God, who am I to do this thing that is so big? And it is far easier for my mind to solve money problems than it is to face the reality of my own insecurity, of my own self-doubt. And so I just invite you to look and see, is it possible that that might be there for you as well? That maybe you're a solopreneur not because you don't have enough money, but because you're scared to hire someone, because entering into a relationship with someone, especially somebody that's promising to do things for you, and you have to lead them and guide them and mentor them, is emotionally really scary. At least it has been for me. Or, what's actually in your way? Because it's not money. That is a smokescreen. So how do you do it without having to lose it all? Because that is the road, by the way, it was my path. In order to be able to see these things, I had to lose it all. Go all the way down, rock bottom. Reputation, brand, image, ego, money. To be able to see that it wasn't about the money. It was never about the money. It was always about what was in here. And I believe that you're on a path. You're here in this room today because you want to live with your eyes wide open. You want to see. You want to step into the truth, into the light, into a new economy business model. You want to break free of the conditioning that's keeping you from doing that. Is that true? Great. I'm so glad. But you don't want to have to lose it all to do it. And it's force or choice. That's my perspective. Like when you are on the path, you're either going to be forced to see or you're going to choose to see. And so what I'm offering you is a way to choose to see. And it is to know the equation for enough. It's this simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. And it is that you get to know how to ask for what you need in exchange for what you have to give. It's that simple. What do you need? What do you have to give? How do you ask for it? Now, that's actually 3 really big questions. What do you need? What do you have to give? And how do you ask for it? But when you can recognize that it's just those 3 questions, you can answer, you can solve this formula and always have enough. And in fact, have so much of enough that you can give back, that you can create the new economy business model that you really want. You can hire people, you could be on a team, you could give to organizations and projects that you really want to be part of. And instead of saying, oh, I don't have the money, you can look at, do I really even want to do this? First, that's the first question. Do I even really want to do this? And then when it's a yes, you can find the resources you need to do it. Instead of being like, I'm stuck, I can't. Next slide. So, okay, step number 1, know what you need. I have a process for that, knowing what you need. The thing is, it's not static. It's not like there's one what you need. I believe that what you need exists on a spectrum that begins with minimum to be happy. And the smaller your minimum to be happy can be, the more freedom you have. So that was part of going to the farm for me. I discovered that my minimum to be happy could be just $5,000 a month. Now, for some of you, $5,000 a month is a lot of money. That's like, whoa, that's a lot. That's my minimum to be happy. Don't judge me. That's what's true. You get to pick yours. There's no right answer here, okay? What is your minimum to be happy? For some of you, it's like $1,000 a month. For some of you, it's $10,000 a month. I have a process for discovering what your minimum to be happy is. The next level is preferred if you could afford it. There's actually one in between, but it's called minimum to be of service. All right, let's talk about that one. Minimum to be of service. My minimum to be happy does not actually support me to be in service. Because in my minimum to be happy, I'm doing all my own dishes and my own laundry and cleaning my own house and cooking my own food and going to the grocery store and taking my kids to school and camp and everything. In that construct, I can't really be of service so much to the outside world because all of my time, energy, and attention is going to tending my house and my kids, which is a beautiful thing, and minimum to be happy, totally fine, but not minimum to be of service, right? Like, I wouldn't be doing this right now. I'm doing this, and I pay somebody, two people, to clean my room and put away my clothes. Now, some people would say it's so frivolous, and actually it was a little hard for me to accept that, yeah, that's important to me in order to be of service. Why? Because it frees up my energy to be able to do this, which I think is valuable. So that's minimum to be of service. You got to know your own minimum to be of service. Preferred if you could afford it. Next level is, you got a lot of things in there that you don't really need, but they make your life better. You really like them. Your gym membership. You don't need to have a gym membership. It might not even be included in your minimum to be happy or your minimum to be of service. But you're preferred if you could afford it, gym membership. For me, it's a personal trainer. I don't need it, but preferred if I could afford it. Yeah, I want a trainer. I want a personal trainer. The last category is no limits. That's the hardest one for me. It really requires me to stretch the bounds of my thinking to no limits? What would that be like? And it's funny because I have two versions of no limits for myself. One of them is, houses in many different countries and the private plane to get there. And then I start to feel guilty about the drain and resources on our planet. And I'm like, oh, actually, maybe my no limits is totally off-grid living. And I don't go anywhere. So I've got these two, extremes of my no limits. But you get to pick your own no limits. So know what you need. Now, what you're focusing on from a what you need perspective depends on where you are right now. And so it also requires you to get honest with yourself. Are you even meeting your needs right now? Are you even at your minimum to be happy? Because if not, that's what you're working towards first. Minimum to be happy. If you're already at your minimum to be happy, work towards minimum to be of service. Free yourself up. Look at some of those places that you're not creating your own economy, that you're not putting money, and you're sacrificing time, energy, and attention, and way too much of it. And if you are at your minimum to be of service, look at whether you are continuing to work for more, instead of recognizing that you have a choice. You don't actually have to take on that client. You don't actually have to continue to be out there hustling. It might be time to start to invest more resources in developing your creativity. Now you're at choice. Okay? So you got to know where you are relative to minimum to be happy, minimum to be of service, preferred if you could afford it. Step number 2 is to know what you have to give. To know what you have to give. Lots of people challenged here. They don't know what they have to give. They don't know what they have that is of value. And how many of you struggle with that? I don't know what I have to give. Yeah. So it's a big one for you to begin to identify. How can I actually be of service? What do I actually have that's valuable? What are the resources that I actually have that people want? And then the last part, step 3, is knowing how to ask for what you need in exchange for what you have to give. Kind of the best story I think I have of this is after the bankruptcy, a couple years out, I had rebuilt the businesses, but I wanted to create a reality show. And so I hired this guy to film my life for 4 months. And he made this trailer. And it's really funny. Nobody's ever really seen it, but it was pretty good. And then I wanted my mom to invest in me to create the reality show. And because I didn't have any credit anymore, my credit score was shot. And so I was going to ask my mom to invest in me. Now, have any of you ever asked your parents to invest in you? Yeah. Well, I don't know how it was for you, but for me, it brought up all of my fears, all of my insecurities. Like, if my own mom won't invest in me, then who would possibly invest in me? So for the 2 weeks leading up to it, I'm just terrified. And I know that it's going to be a direct reflection of whatever I'm feeling inside myself, so I really have to get right with my ask. And I have to ask in a really clean way, but I feel like it's going to be messy. Your asks have to be clean. So the day came, and I filmed it. It's 15 minutes. And one day I'll actually show it to people because it's really good. It's a really good example of how to ask, get a no, and keep going. She ultimately said yes. And I didn't end up using the money to create a reality show. I ended up using it to put back into the business, which was a far safer investment, because once she said yes, I was like, I have to use this money for something that's going to bring more money. There's no way I could put it in something as risky as a reality show. This is my mom's money. Change the whole equation. And it actually wasn't even her money. It was her credit. There's this really cool strategy that I have learned and now teach on how to use business credit as a resource. And so for any of you that are currently using your personal credit to build your businesses, you got to stop doing that. You want to shift into using business credit. You can get 100,000, 150, 200,000 of 0% interest business credit. And if you have a good credit score, you don't have to use your parents to do it. But if you have a bad credit score, you can. Your parents can do it for you. In this case, it was an available resource that my mom had. She actually doesn't have any money. She's an art teacher. But she had this 800 credit score that she's been protecting her whole life. Why not invest it in me, her daughter, so that I can give it back to her and support her through her old age? And so it's a really great untapped resource for those of you that are like, where can I get the money to do this thing that I really want to do? And you really believe in yourself and you really believe in the thing. Consider business credit. Do not use your personal credit ever again. Because what happens when you use your personal credit is you then max out your personal credit score. That hurts your personal credit score and you can't get more credit. Anybody ever had that happen? Credit score goes down, down, down because you've used too much of it. Even if you're paying on it, once you've used over 30% of your personal credit, it starts dinging your credit score and you can't get more. When you're using business credit, you can use 100% of the available credit and it's zero impact on your personal credit score. Super great resource to have available. So you want to know how to ask for what you need in exchange for what you have to give. So I want to give you the tools you need to go through this process. It is my absolute gift to you. It's free. You could go to moneymap.tv now or when you leave, and you're going to be able to get started on my Money Map life and income planning process. And it's basically a free taste. 4 modules, 4 pieces of my Money Map program. The Money Map program itself is ultimately a 12-module program, 2 phases. The first phase being clarity, the second phase being strategy. But you're getting a huge chunk of the first phase being clarity. You could change it. And these are what the 4 modules are going to take you through. So the first one is a 15-minute guided meditation that supports you to actually envision the life that you truly want. And I guide you through a process of seeing the world that you want to live in and your role in that world. What does a world that works for everyone look like with you in it? The second part is discovering your truth. And in this part, you might be really surprised to find out, where are you hiding your truth? Where are you hiding the truth of what you actually truly really want? I find that most of us, what's keeping us from having what we need is lying to ourselves about what we really want. want, need. They can get very confusing. We can pretend that we don't want something. We don't even, I don't need that anyway. Because we don't believe we can really have it. I find that for me, I hide a lot of my wants behind jealousy. So I'm like jealous of something, which is hard to admit, even if I'm jealous of something at all. But like I'm jealous of something and, oh, I actually really want that. Or comparison despair. It's a big one for me. I had a lot of things back there. And ultimately, the belief that I can't have it. So discovering your truth is going to take you into that process for you to discover what you really want so that you can identify what you need at those 4 levels. The third module is your personal money map. And you're going to get to use this really super cool tool I created called the Money Map tool. It's an online tool for calculating your money map number. You're going to look at what you need and how much time you actually have to create it. And what you're going to likely find is that you have a lot less time than you think. Time is your most valuable asset, your most valuable resource. And because you don't realize how little time you actually have to earn money, you are way undervaluing your services. And you are going into debt. Not money debt. Who cares about money debt? You're going into time debt. You're going into energy debt. And it's hurting you and it's hurting your family to do it. I want you to use money to buy back your time every chance you get. Because you can always make more money. You cannot make more time, energy, and attention. So you're going to calculate how much do you really need and how much time you actually have. That's going to give you your money map numbers. And there's 4 numbers because minimum to be of service, preferred, no limits, and now. And then in the last module in that program, you're going to identify your entrepreneurial archetype and your archetype path. So there's lots of ways for you to earn money. How do you choose among them? You do it based on entrepreneurial archetypes and archetype paths, knowing that your archetype is just an income model. And you choose the income models that are right for you based on where you are in your current pathway. It's not static, it changes, it's dynamic. You are dynamic, you are evolutionary, but it does help to know the right order to do things in. How many of you have considered like building an online business, bringing your work online? Great. My guess is that some of you are doing that completely out of order. You're like, oh, I'm going to build this online business, but yet you haven't yet mastered how to price and package your services to work with people. You're not even clear what is the service that you offer, right? And so this module is going to help you to line up the clear order in which to do things for you. And this is the map of the entrepreneurial archetypes. And what you'll see in this map is that there's 4 main archetypes: the guide, the creator, the supporter, and the connector. And that there is 8 subtypes, sage and star for each one. So sage guide, sage creator, sage connector, star connector, sage supporter, star supporter. Each one of those is an income model that you get to use to earn income in the way that's right for you. So for example, for me, I started as a sage supporter. I was a file clerk in a law office, just helping people with their businesses. Sage supporter. That's like you could be a virtual assistant, a personal assistant. A lot of people start off as sage supporters. Some people stay there and they get really valuable there. Others then decide, oh, I've done that, one-to-one thing for a while, supporting other people, and now I want to become a star supporter. What's a star supporter? That's like managing a team. So now I'm like the CEO or the executive director. So now it's not just you working supporting one person, but you're supporting a company or a team. Sage Guide is that one-to-one business model coach, therapist, healer. And there's certain aspects that come along with that you have to master if you're a Sage Guide. I shouldn't say if you are a Sage Guide, if you are using that entrepreneurial archetype to earn your income. Star Guide is where you're delivering your work to groups. maybe speaking from the stage, maybe having online courses, facilitating your work out in the world in like a do-it-yourself format. And you are kind of guiding that, but not on a one-to-one. Sage creator, artists, you're earning your money painting, singing, doing your art in the world. Copywriting, sage creator. Star creator is the people who have taken their work, they've created a new body of work, and now they're licensing it to others. So my star creator model is when I license my programs to others to use. So when the lawyers license my work, that's the star creator income model. Franchisors, licensors, star creator model. It's the ultimately leveraged model. It takes, in my opinion, the most work to build. Bar none. You need a huge team. You need big resources to do it. Most people think they want to go straight there, by the way, and it's really funny. You can't go straight there. You need to grow into that. Sage Connector is facilitating small groups, workshops, maybe even conflict type situations. Star Connector is our affiliate model folks. So the MLM business, affiliate marketers. You are leveraging your audience to offer other people's work. You don't have to create the products yourself. You have to create the audience. You have to inspire and motivate. Now, I use almost all of these at this point. Today, I've got the Sage Guide element, the Star Guide element, the Star Creator element. I'm not so much of the Sage Creator. My business is my art. I don't make things other than businesses. Sage Connector element, Star Connector element, that's my hemp oil business. And I don't really do, the Sage Supporter and the Star Supporter are interesting because in a way I do the Star Supporter but for other people's businesses. Sometimes I'll act like an outsourced CFO. That's a Star Supporter role. And Sage Supporter, not so much anymore. I don't do that as much anymore, but I'll tell you, I did it a little bit for my friend who was getting married. I was her maid of honor. That's like a classic Sage Supporter, like, how can I be in service to you? And it was one of the most amazing things that I ever did. Like, talk about learning how to lead from serving. It was amazing. So you can incorporate all of these. You just have to know how and when. And many people are getting confused, me included for many years, because we don't know what to bring in when, how to allocate the time, energy, attention, and money to which of these at which time. My Star Guide piece is kind of on hold right now. If it wasn't, I'd be selling you something. I'd be selling you the money map, or I'd be selling you a program. I'm not. I'm just giving it away for free right now because I haven't been allocating my time, energy, and attention there, right? So within this map, you each, with your eyes wide open, get to choose how to allocate your time, energy, attention, and money to build a life worth living and ultimately a legacy worth leaving. Okay, we're not going to go through all this. You guys can see that in the free course itself. You can go to the next slide. Yeah. Okay, pricing and packaging your services. I just want to say one thing about that really quickly because I promised I would. You guys have to get rid of the hourly model. Focus on packaging your services based on an outcome. So you get really clear about the outcome that you provide to the people that you work with. And what time is it? 15 till 8. Okay, great. So I'm happy to do some coaching with you here now for those of you that want to look at how you could make this shift. Because from my perspective, making this shift in how you charge for your services is the single biggest shift that you can make as the starting point into stepping into the new economy business model that you really want to have. Because when you're adequately charging for your services, not based on the hour, but based on the outcome, now you've got the resources that you need, clearly, to hire other people, to pay them well, and to start to create the teams that you want to be working with instead of working completely alone. That is based in you serving the people who truly value what you have to give. Many of us aren't doing that. We're like chasing after the people who don't really value what we have to give. And I've found that that just comes from my own insecurity. And then asking cleanly for what you need so you can give the most. And that requires you to know what you need. One of the things that I like the most in my companies, by the way, is when a team member says, here's what I really need to earn. Great. Let's figure out how that can be possible. This is what I really need to earn. I trust them more when they tell me that. I trust them more when they tell me that. So for any of you that have been like afraid to say, this is what I need to earn, like let's root out the cause of that. Totally shift that so that you can start receiving what you actually need to have the life that you want. So it might be that we use this time to do a little coaching on that. You go to the next slide. Don't expect to do it all at once. Give yourself realistic time frames and chart your course. The things that we've talked about today are not overnight quick fixes. We're changing deeply rooted, deeply ingrained beliefs around not enough, around scarcity. And it didn't start with you. You're here to heal it, but it started well before you. And always, 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 when given the chance, please use your money. Use money, even if it's not your money, use somebody's money to buy back your time, energy, and your attention because it's too valuable for you not to. And when I say use somebody's money, ask for it. Ask for it. You're going to get it. Maybe not the first time. Maybe you're going to hear a no at first. Okay? Ask somebody else. Ask again. Ask in a different way. Believe in yourself enough to know that your time, energy, and attention is so valuable. And money, it comes and goes. Okay, so what time does this go till?
It's supposed to go till 8. Facebook messed up the timing on
Okay.
the event.
Great.
Maybe a little after 8.
Okay, so it can go as short or as long as you want based on how I can support you now to give you some actual direct coaching on what we just talked about. What questions do you have? What comes up for you? Most importantly, what are your objections? What is that little voice inside of you that's saying, no, or what?
I strongly disagree with
Great.
your approach to debt.
Awesome, I love it. Great, you strongly disagree with my approach to debt.
Magically, I'm a financial advisor, so you've been listening to me all night.
But maybe you're one of the good ones.
I am one of the good ones.
So if you're one of the good ones, then I haven't been dissing you all night because you've got to, I would imagine, see that some of what I'm saying is leading people down a path that isn't creating the lives that they want. And maybe you do things differently based on that.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Well, my big thing, so I had a completely different career.
Yeah.
And like you, I went through a divorce. I needed to be home to raise my child.
Okay.
So I worked for somebody else, but basically I'm a 1099 contractor, which is what attracted me to your seminar.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't overcharge for my services because I knew what it was like to be on the other side.
Yeah.
And I think people's money is theirs, and then if I provide value, we're both going to make money together.
Yeah.
And they'll give me referrals and things like that.
Totally.
But, when debt in terms of financial planning comes up all the time,
Yeah.
and I doubt you looked forward to going through bankruptcy. I doubt you would want to do it again. And while there are resources out there, do you think they need to be used in a balanced way?
Yeah, I'm not saying not to use them in a balanced way. I'm saying to use them to invest in buying back our time, energy, and attention. Now, there were plenty of things that I invested in. Let me try and think about that. What were the bad investments that I made with my debt? When it came towards the end, I was already $350,000 in debt at this point because I'd sold my law firm to the wrong person. Rather than, he gave it back to me without paying me what we agreed to. And I had two choices. I could take it back and keep running it and keep taking on clients, but I knew that would be a lie because I'd already moved on. And what I was selling clients was this lifetime relationship that wasn't true at that point. And so I could either take on clients to keep paying. It would have been like a Ponzi scheme at that point, taking on clients to pay for something I knew I wasn't going to provide. So instead, what I chose to do is not take on any more clients and keep paying my whole staff to run the office, to hand the clients over to other lawyers that I knew would provide the lifetime relationship that I had promised. And that took about 6 months and about $250,000. So that $250,000 debt was mine, and then the $100,000 tax bill was mine. So I had about $350,000 of debt. And I knew like it was either going down the road of bankruptcy or somehow I was going to pull it out. Because at that point, when you've got that much debt, you might as well use your credit that you have left available for a last-ditch effort. That's the way I look at it. So I did. And I took all of that money and I put it into the farm project out in Berthoud. And it could have worked. I mean, we built this beautiful retreat center, and absolutely it could have worked. It could have been the new economy business model that could have paid off all the debt and all of it. I was not emotionally ready for that. Like, in order to do that, I would have had to have been able to handle the conflict that comes when you've got a community, and I had no idea how to deal with conflict. I had no idea how to deal with the addiction and alcoholism and other things that came along with having a farm out in Berthoud and the people that were attracted there. And I actually needed to go through the bankruptcy, like for my own personal spiritual evolution.
You might be misunderstanding me. I'm not saying things don't happen.
Yeah.
People go through difficult things all the time, and we all make the decisions at the time with the information that we have. I have made both good and bad investments, and been through a ton of shit, which makes my life experience what I'm really selling. That's what makes me.
But I think what I hear you saying is that you disagree with my stance on debt.
It seemed to me when you're, and I may just be the only one, it seemed to me when you were giving the presentation, you were encouraging to sort of have a no-bounds approach to debt.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that has to be handled responsibly.
Yes. Handle it responsibly, and don't let your lack of belief in yourself or the shame that we culturally have around debt to keep you from investing in the things that really matter. Now, that doesn't mean a big screen TV or a fancy, car that you can't afford or too much of a house. But at the same time, I see so many people who are going into business for themselves or not going into business for themselves, or not getting the support that they need in their businesses because they won't tap debt as a resource. I'll give you a perfect example. I serve lawyers, and I train them on a new law business model. They have a law degree. They've already got student loan debt. They have a really valuable service to provide, but nobody knows about them, and they don't know how to engage clients. So rather than investing, call it $3,000 in a program that we offer that will teach them how to engage clients, which will allow them to earn $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 per client, they don't want to go in debt to do it. They don't want to use a credit card to do it because they've been told, don't go into debt. Do not go into debt to build your law practice. To me, that is the craziest thinking I can think of, because that going into debt is going to be the thing that gets them to learn how to engage the clients and make the most of the law degree that they've already invested $50,000 to $100,000 in. So that's the kind of thinking that I want people to break free of, because it's just conditioned. Now, should they take that $3,000 and go on a trip to Hawaii? No, but some of them are. That's what's also the crazy part, So yes, debt used responsibly, but how do we make sure that people actually know what that means? And again, the cultural conditioning around it is what, to me, is scary, because the first 2 years of my law practice, I was terrified to use debt because I thought it made me bad and wrong if I did. And it held back the growth of my practice, and I couldn't hire people, and I was stuck, and all the things. And what got me to $1 million a year of revenue ultimately was getting a line of credit, investing in that building, building it out, hiring people, stretching beyond my comfort zone. So how do you help people know that? Yeah, thanks. One of the things I will say is really looking at your numbers. I didn't go into today the cash flow forecasting systems that I've developed, but I've developed some really amazing ways that I look at my financials. So for example, every week, I get a report for each one of my companies and my own personal that lets me know exactly how much is in the bank, how much do I have coming in over the next 6 to 8 weeks, how much do I have going out over the next 6 to 8 weeks, what accounts receivable are there for each company and for myself personally every week. And then every month, I sit down with my bookkeeping team and we look at the profit and loss. Now, back in the day, before I was doing this, before the bankruptcy, every time a financial meeting came up, I canceled it. Oh, I'm sick. Oh, this other thing came up. Oh, I can't do it. I was terrified to sit down and look at my numbers because I didn't actually know what to look at or what I was looking at or what I was seeing or how to interpret anything. So, I developed these systems out of necessity because I had to be able to do it eyes wide open. So it might be that before you can take on debt, you've got to go through some of these processes that I've created to be able to know that you're making choices with your eyes wide open and not just irresponsibly helter-skelter. What is your name? Elton? Alan. Like Alan is saying, just, oh, that feels good. Oh, that seems like a good idea. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying do it with your eyes wide open. Knowing that if you are going to take on business credit at 0% interest for 12 to 18 months, you're doing it with, oh, I see how I could pay this back. If I just invest this here, then I'm going to learn how to do this, and then I'm going to be able to do that, and then here's how the money's going to come back to pay it back. That's a good decision. So yes, eyes wide open, do it smart, don't end up in the same situation I did. Anybody else? Objections? This, I don't know. Need any coaching on anything? Yeah.
I really like your the model of the archetypes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm one of those people who wants to be a star creator.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like having a really hard time figuring out
What's the path?
doing like everything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like how do you figure that out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the way that I believe that you figure that out, what has worked for me, and it's funny because I say don't put money first, but especially for you, single mom, and so many skills, so many talents, you look at what do you need to be doing? What do you need to be doing in order to meet your daughter's financial needs, meet your financial needs? First, minimum to be happy. If you're already at your minimum to be happy, great. Get yourself on the path to minimum to be of service. And it's weird. It's like money is the driver in this conversation that we're having right here, but smart money is the driver. Not more, not $40 million, but like actually, what do you actually need? Okay, great. Now based on what I need, I could start to allocate my time, energy, and attention using the archetype that is going to make the highest and best use of the skills that I have and save you the most time, energy, and attention. Because ultimately that's what I want, is for you to have as much of your time, energy, and attention freed up so that you can create. But you've got to be meeting your needs. Minimum to be happy. Great, now minimum to be of service. Once you're at minimum to be of service and you've got a team supporting your work, okay, now we could start to look at some other choices. But I want you there first using your highest leverage, gifts, skills, and talents. Buy yourself some freedom, not financial freedom because you've got $40 million, but time freedom because you know that your bills are getting paid doing your highest leverage, using your highest leverage gifts and talents. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What is it telling you to do that you don't want to do?
I mean, I would look at that entire map and go over all 8 of those and see what I can do in each 8. 'Cause
Yeah.
I could easily fill all of
them.
those.
Yes, you could.
And look, like stack up, okay, if I did this, how much time, energy, attention
Yes.
do I have to put in for how much money?
Exactly.
And
right.
also, which of these could I invest in that could create some passive income
Yes.
to help me get to the
Yes, that's right. And you know, I want you to do it because I want you to take other people through this process, ultimately. You know, just so you know, like, so I'm totally transparent, where am I going with all this? I want other people teaching this process. I did train Money Map Masters. I trained 5 of them 2 years ago, and the investment of resources I was gonna have to put in to keep doing it was just too significant when I looked at my own money map. And I had to put, I didn't have to, I chose to put my time, energy, and attention into the lawyers and teaching them how to do this with their clients. But ultimately, like, I want you doing it, and you know, and I want you doing it with your clients, and I want you all to be using these tools in a way that's really, you know, supportive to the world. So that's where I want to take all this, and if any of you, you know, have any oomph to want to do that, these resources exist for you to do that at some point. So, yeah.
I've worked for companies for years, and then I freelanced for a year and a half, and now I'm in a salaried position.
Yes.
A big corporate firm.
Awesome, yeah.
I'm having trouble connecting the dots for how your model might be applicable for someone like me.
Great. So the way that I see it is, first of all, do you like your work?
I love it.
You love it, great.
But I don't really see, besides, like, you know, end of fiscal year performance reviews, like how to make those steps, but also how to have time to fit in, like, oh, side businesses or whatever. Like, I just don't have time for.
Do you want to do side businesses? Okay, well,
If I had time, I would.
okay. Is there a possibility that you can restructure your position using what you're learning here and maybe in the money map to go back to your boss? And I did have one of our money map masters who did this, to go back to her boss and say, hey, boss, I need to restructure my position. I don't want to come into the office anymore. I want to work from home. This is how much I want to make. This is what I'm going to deliver outcome. Don't worry about the hours. I'll get it handled. I'll get it taken care of. Outcome. And they said yes. They said yes. She freed up all of her commute time. She's earning what she wants, doing the same job she was doing in the office, getting paid a set salary, and has now the free time to parent her children in a different way and do her side hustle. So yeah, that's how it'd be restructuring your relationship with the company in a way that's really clear, making the clear ask. Making the clear ask. Before you can make the clear ask, you need to know what you need, how much money, and what you have to give. It's the outcome that you're giving right now with a lot less time.
Let's go on the presumption that I don't want to do any side hustles.
Okay.
Let's say I don't want to have a bunch of pots in the fire.
You want anything different? Or are you super happy?
More money.
Okay,
Free up time.
great.
So I don't have to clean my house and cook food.
Yes, great. Use the process to go and talk to the people who are in control of paying you to tell them that. Hey, people, I need more money to free up more time so I can give you more of myself. You can do that, and they're going to say yes.
More of myself, not more of my time.
More of the outcome that they want, assuming that you can.
Right.
Because ultimately, you not getting burned out, assuming that you're providing a good outcome, is extremely important to them. The amount of money it would cost them to replace you, and I'm making a lot of assumptions here, but the amount of money that it would cost them to replace you is tremendous if you're performing well and providing the outcomes. So when you can leverage that and understand the value that you're providing, you get to go back to them and renegotiate from a place of empowerment. Not from, well, I just have to take whatever they're going to give me. No, when my team members come to me, we are partners in them having what they want and need, because I want them to stay and not burn out and keep, delivering the outcomes that are here for them. And you can use this process to get clear on what you need to be clear on to make a clear ask, powerful ask. Yeah. Hi.
So I'm a software developer, freelance, and I only can handle one client at a time. I'm even part-time for them, so
Yeah.
it doesn't look that different for an employee except the 1099 stuff.
Yep.
So I'm familiar with that business, and I'm familiar with, as a consumer side, with kind of health businesses.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that both really don't. So I'm reading a lot about outcome-based pricing for software services, but it just seems crazy risky. And then you never hear about that in the health side. Like, no one ever does outcome pricing for that. It's probably unethical. Or, I don't know. There's a reason, I think, why everyone really does hourly pricing. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm looking for the reality, like, it's a guaranteed outcome, right? Like, can you do that with software, and can you do that with health, coaches and.
Yeah. Well, if I'm hiring you on a software project, yeah, you better guarantee the outcome. What am I hiring you for?
Yeah, there's such a strong conventional wisdom that fixed bid pricing is terrible for software, and so maybe that's
For the developer.
For the developer.
That's why it's important to know your minimum to be happy, like your minimum, and also to properly scope your jobs and to know your job. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, and you might not in the beginning, then hourly does make sense. Like you got to go hourly because you don't actually have enough information. But if you can do outcome-based billing and really tie it into the value that you're creating, there's way bigger upside. Now, maybe there is some risk on the downside, but you can mitigate that with a minimum. You can, if you know your minimum that you need, you could mitigate that with a minimum. But if I'm paying you a minimum, I still want an outcome. Like, what if you can't deliver?
I think it does come down to information because there's risk that developer, maybe I can't deliver because the features you put together just don't, we're dependent on some external service I don't have control over, and that's actually a scenario that's happened recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not able to deliver, I charge a lot of money.
So, great. So I want you to build that into your agreement where there's a minimum if certain factors that are outside of your control come up.
Oh, I understand.
So build that into your agreement. Now, on the health side, on the coaching side, that's a really great question. Like, I cannot guarantee that you are, going to make a certain amount of money based on, following my things, maybe, because I don't know if you're actually going to do it. But I can guarantee if you do it. If you do what I say, I can guarantee the outcome you're going to have. Now, I've got a lot of experience and knowledge. So maybe in the beginning, you can't do that. Maybe in the beginning, it's really about managing expectations and getting really honest with what can you actually control? What can you actually guarantee? Maybe it's small. Maybe it's not that big. But if you can be clear about it, people will still want it. Yeah, Jackie.
Yeah, I was going to add, because I do
Yeah.
consulting with coaches and people who do meditative coaching and stuff. Like, what can you guarantee as an outcome to someone you're coaching on meditation? You can guarantee things. I've got a number of questions that I ask. What can you guarantee that this person will get from working with you? And they always come up with things that can be used in their marketing. Things like, you will understand a new way of seeing yourself or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's ways of speaking about an outcome, even if it's not like a dollar amount or like it can be qualitative, not necessarily quantitative.
Yeah, it's part of knowing what you have to give. And it might be that you need to do some work around the area of knowing what you have to give. And maybe you need to interview people you've worked with and say, hey, what did you get from our work together? What was it like to work with me? And maybe you're going to get some hard feedback and find out that it wasn't good. Okay, good for you to know so that you can improve.
Well, what I'm taking from this is more I need to limit my risk of what projects I take on. Just say I can't guarantee. I have no idea how long that will take, and I don't want to charge you hourly for it. So I won't do it for you.
I think you and I had a conversation like that, actually. I seem to remember we talked about a software at some point, and you were like, yeah. So it was something along those lines. I can't guarantee that, so I'm just not going to do that. And you might have people who then say to you, I'm willing to just have you try, and I'll pay for you to try. Okay, great. Now we're starting to actually get into a relationship with what's true. And ultimately, that's what I'm going for here. Relationship with what's true. I want you to be in a relationship with what's true, around what you need, what you have to give, and then asking for it and setting those expectations honestly.
You can also identify an outcome that you can live with.
Yeah,
I can't
that's right.
guarantee returns. I don't control the market.
That's right.
I tell clients I can control your costs by making good choices.
Yep.
Right, for what we invest in.
Right.
Right. I can be responsive. I can determine your risk tolerance, things like that.
That's right.
I can identify specific things that you can meet
And you can guarantee you're going to meet with them once a month. You can guarantee you're going to, be available for a return phone call within 24 hours. There are certain things that you can guarantee that could provide that comfort. So again, what do you have to give? And what is the value of that? So I think you're going to get a lot of clarity going through that process at moneymap.tv. It's free. Eventually, I'm going to email you and want to sell you something, so look for that. I'm really looking forward to when that happens, because what that means is that the work will be out back in the world in a bigger way, because right now it's really limited. There's like an entire process for doing this that's just, people aren't getting to experience right now because my attention and energy is somewhere else. So get it while it's good, get it while it's free, go through it. I'm not promising you it's easy. It's simple. But it's really confronting work to really discover what you want and what you need and what you have to give and then how to ask for it. But for me, it's been extremely rewarding, and I believe it will be for you as well, because it's where you find the true foundation of enough in this 3D material plane. There's a whole other version of enough in your own internal space and beyond, in security and in meditation and, in the enlightenment world. But there's also enough right here. And you can have enough and live beyond scarcity and be true to who you are and be free from making your decisions based on what you don't have. And that's what I want for all of you and for all of us. Thank you all so much.